word is pranced. Let's say that together. Pranced. Prance means to move in a bouncy way. Today I want you to touch your nose every time you hear the word pranced in our story. This word is sniffed. Let's say that together. Sniffed. Sniffed means to have done a quick smell with your nose. Today I want you to touch your nose every time you hear the word sniffed in our story. Little Lucy, written by Eileen Cooper and illustrated by John Kanzler. Lucy was a little beagle. She was brown and black and white. Her eyes looked like chocolate candy. Here's what Lucy liked: running, barking, chewing, howling. And she loved her boy, Bobby Quinn. Lucy also liked riding in the car. She liked to stick her head out of the window. She liked the way the wind ruffled her fur. "Lucy," Bobby said, "we're going to a new place today." New? What did that mean? Bobby clipped Lucy's leash to her collar. Lucy knew what that meant. They were going outside. How did Lucy know they were going outside? Well, Bobby's clipping on her leash, and that's when she knew that they were going outside. So I bet he puts her leash on her every time they go outside, and then that way she knows when her leash goes on, she gets to go outside. Mr. Quinn got in the car. So did Mrs. Quinn. She put a red cooler in the back seat. Why did they put a cooler in the car? Well, what does a cooler do? Keeps things cold, right? And we know that they're going to end up going to the lake where there are no refrigerators or anything like that, and they're going to cook. So they need their food to stay cold. Bobby got in the back seat too. Lucy jumped in beside him. She parked at the window. Bobby knew what that meant. Lucy wanted him to open the window. Mr. Quinn drove and drove. The wind ruffled Lucy's fur, but the air smelled different. It smelled like trees and grass. There weren't any people on the sidewalk. There weren't any sidewalks. Lucy saw a big black and white animal behind a fence. It let out a long moo. Lucy let out a long howl. She added a bark just to show who was boss. At last, the car stopped. Bobby and Lucy got out. "Let's go see the lake," Bobby said. Lucy pranced along ahead of Bobby. Then she stopped. What in the world was that? Why do you think that Lucy stopped? She must have seen something, right? What do we know that she ends up seeing? The lake, which she doesn't like at first. It was big. It was blue. It looked wet. "That's the lake," Bobby said. "The lake is fun. You can go swimming." Bobby took off his shoes. He stuck his toes in the lake. Water rolled over his feet. Water rolled over Lucy's paws, too. She jumped back. Why do you think that Lucy didn't like the lake at first? She didn't like it after the water rolled over her paws, so maybe she just didn't like that feeling at first. Did she learn to like it by the end? The lake was too big, it was too cold, and it was much too wet. Bobby grabbed a beach ball. "Come on, Lucy," he said. "Let's play in the water." Lucy liked the big beach ball, but she still didn't like the lake. She turned her back on the water. "She doesn't want to go in," Mrs. Quinn said. "I will tie her leash to that tree. Then you can swim." Tied up? Lucy knew what that meant. No fun. Why do you think that Miss Quinn tied Lucy's leash to the tree? Well, Bobby can't hold on to her while he's swimming, and that way she wouldn't run away or wander off. But Lucy settled down under the leafy tree. It was cool and quiet. She put her head on her paws. She closed her eyes. Lucy was almost asleep. Then she heard a sound. Zzz, zzz. What was that noise? Lucy opened one eye. A small bug was flying around her ear. Lucy barked a little bark. The bug went away. Then she closed her eyes again. Zzz, zzz. Lucy growled a little growl. That pesky bug kept right on buzzing. Ouch! The bug bit Lucy's ear. Lucy rubbed her head on the ground. She rolled around some more. Why did Lucy roll around on the ground? Because the bug bit her ear. She was trying to rub it. Her leash came loose. Lucy was free. Nobody saw Lucy escape. Mrs. Quinn was reading a book. Mr. Quinn was grilling hamburgers. Lucy trotted off to explore. She saw a bright blue bird. She sniffed a pile of leaves. Then she heard a funny sound. Ribbit! She looked around. There was a small green frog. The frog hopped away. Lucy followed it. The frog hopped faster. Ribbit! Lucy tried to catch up. That frog was fast. It hopped into a puddle. The puddle was small, but it was wet. Lucy didn't follow the frog into the puddle. It hopped out of sight. Why do you think Lucy didn't follow the frog? Look at her little paw touching the water. That reminds me of whenever she touched the water in the lake and didn't really like it. So she must not have followed him because she didn't want to go through the water. Lucy went around the puddle. She ran after the frog. Did Lucy watch where she was going? No, she did not. She tumbled down a small hill. She wasn't hurt, but she wasn't happy. Grass and dirt and leaves stuck to her fur. Lucy was hot and dirty. She gave herself a shake. Bits of grass and dirt and leaves still stuck to her coat. Lucy wanted her family. Where were they? She looked around. No bird, no frog, no family. They were all gone. What should she do? How is she going to find her way back? How would you feel if you were Lucy? I know I would feel scared and alone, maybe even worried that I would never find my family. Lucy stood quietly. She looked for the car. She listened for Bobby. She sniffed the air. Something smelled good. She knew that smell. Hamburgers! Lucy had a good nose for smelling. She followed her nose. She ran up the hill. She ran past the small puddle. The green frog was there. Ribbit! Lucy did not slow down. She had to get back to her family. The burger smell got stronger. Then Lucy saw what she was looking for. Bobby. How would you feel if you were Lucy after you saw Bobby for the first time again? I know I would feel excited, probably a little bit relieved, like glad that I knew I found my family and I wasn't alone anymore. Bobby spotted his dog. His eyes grew wide. Lucy, he said, you got away. Mrs. Quinn gasped. Oh, Lucy, she said, you're all dirty. Bobby gave Lucy a big hug. He didn't care about the dirt. Lucy's tail wagged. What was all the fuss about? How do you think Bobby felt? He looks really happy, doesn't he? Look at his face. I know I would feel happy if my dog came back. Lucy needs a bath, Mrs. Quinn said. There's a big bathtub, Mr. Quinn said. He pointed at the lake. Lucy didn't like the lake, Bobby said. Try again, Bobby, his mother said. Bobby carried Lucy to the water. He held her tight. Lucy looked up at Bobby with her big brown eyes. Don't worry, Lucy, Bobby said. In a second, they were in that wet blue water. Lucy was surprised. Then she barked. It felt good. How would you feel if you were Lucy on this page? Well, we know that she tried to get in the water and she didn't like it, so she probably feels nervous and worried about getting back in the water. Bobby splashed water on her. Dirt and leaves washed off. Lucy wiggled out of Bobby's arms. Hey, Bobby said. Can you swim? Lucy dog paddled next to Bobby. Yeah, she could. The lake was big and blue. The water was wet. Lucy didn't mind. Lucy liked the lake. She liked it a lot. Let's say this word together. Pranced. Pranced means to move in a bouncy way. On this page of our book, it says Lucy pranced along ahead of Bobby. Let's say that word together again. Pranced. Today I want you to use the word pranced in a sentence of your own. Let's say this word together. Sniffed. Sniffed means to have done a quick smell with your nose. On this page of our book, it says Lucy sniffed the air. That means she was doing a quick smell of the air. Let's say that word together again. Sniffed. Today I want you to use the word sniffed in a sentence of your own.